You should do 9 minus 7, that's 2, and square it to get 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, plus 6 is 17, times 6 is 102. So 4 plus 102 minus 6 will give you 100. 2 plus 1 is 3, squared is 9, times 3 is 27, plus 9 is 36, and then on the bottom 8 plus 28 is 36, so that should be 1. This is 18 minus 16, which is 2, squared is 4, times 6 is 24, this is 25, so 25 plus 24 plus 4 should be 53. The winning number today should be 4. Seven people out of 7 present have homework, so that's 100%. Excellent. Homework answers. So here it all is on one sheet of paper, and we'll zoom in. Your equation should be x plus 6, and then plus x plus 4, and then plus x plus 11, and then plus 2x plus 12. Remember, this one says 10 less than double what this one has. If you double this one and then go 10 less, if you double this, it should look like this. Twice x plus 11, which comes out to be 2x plus 22. You multiply 2 by each of those. And then if you have 10 less than that, 22 minus 10 is going to be 12. That's why we get that. So that's 2x plus 12. And once you get to that part, you simplify everything down to this. 6x plus 33 equals 153. And subtract the 33 from the right to get 120. So 120 divided by 6 is 20, and that's for x. Then you had to go back through and answer the questions for each of them. So if you plug in for Joe, he's going to be 26, Greg is 20, John 24, George 31, and Pete 52. Now you have to find the bonus. The bonus is for George and Pete. They had 31 and 52 respectively. So you plug in here, and the question specifically states everything over 30 is what they get $1.50 for. It's not like the other one we did in class the other day. So he had 1 over 30 times $1.50 is $1.50 for George. But Pete had 22 more than 30. So 22 times $1.50 is $33 even. And we'll make each one of these answers here. Each one of these is 5 points. So if you had this one, it's 5 points. If you had this one, it's 5 points. If you had both of them, then it's going to be 5 points, or 10 points total. All right, time for the test review. And so on the first problem, here's your equation. This is problem A. I didn't number them off in terms of 1, 2, 3, and 4. We just answered all of them here. X plus 26 plus x plus 10 plus x plus 38 is 354. And when you solve your equation down, you should get 70. And for the first 4 there, you should have 96, 70, 80, and 118. I fixed this on the test, but I didn't fix it on my solution guide before I photographed it and put it in my project. But it is 108. 70 plus 38 is obviously 108. Problem B, you should have x plus 6, x minus 4, and x plus 11 set equal to 213. Of course, that's going to be plus all the way through there. And when you simplify that equation, it should be 4x plus 113. Not 113, that is plus 13 because I marked over it and can't erase it. Equals 213. Subtract 13 from the right, you get 200. Divide by 4 to get 50. So when you plug that back into your expressions, Joe had 56, Sarah 50, Greg 46, and Julie 61. Problem C. X plus 6, x minus 1, and x plus 9 should be in your equation. And when you solve the equation down, you get 30. Plugging that back in for all of these items here, Justin gets 36, Patrick 30, Cody 29, and Gary 39. The extra credit went back to problem A, and you had a stipulation that if anybody had something over 100 miles, then they would get a bonus of 35 cents per mile. And again, this was photographed before I corrected that. That should be 108, and again 108. So the difference should be 8. And when you multiply the 8 by 35, if I remember right, I think it came out to be, is it 280? $2.80 is what it came out to be? Okay, so yeah, the bonus is not $6.30, it is $2.80. And all you had to do was put no on the first 3 extra credit, and that would have been 25 extra points each. So that's 75 there. And of course, if you get this one, it's another 25 for an extra 100. Here are the A and A plus papers for the whole day. Ruark, Johnson, McDane, Bartley, Bruton, Hellier, Kleiber, Carver, Hammond, Bailey, Armstrong, Baldridge, Spradlin, Garrett. And this one here, yesterday was his first day here at school. His first day was taking the test, and he gets a 975 out of 1,000, having not gone through any of this before. Today's Common Core objective. You're still going to create equations and inequalities in one variable and solve problems, except these are going to have a little more to go through than what we did last week. So here's the first example. A coach must pick two-player practice teams based on how many points are scored in one game. So before we even read the rest of it, understand that the coach has to pick 2 practice teams that only have 2 players on each one. So if he's picking 2 small teams that have 2 players on each one, how many players are there altogether? 4, yes. And it's based on how many points are scored in one game. Of the 4 players that will be chosen, Joe had 9 more points than Jeff. And once you get to this point, you can start creating your equation. So we'll do that down here. If Joe had 9 more points than Jeff, we can start with Joe and then Jeff. Joe had 9 more than Jeff, Greg had 6 less than Joe, and John had 1 less than Greg. So with that, how many times do we see Jeff show up in that expression? Just once. And so naturally we're going to have Jeff as the variable, and Joe had 9 more points than Jeff. So Joe is x plus 9. Greg has 6 less than Joe. And Greg had 6 less than Joe. So we'll go over here to Greg. Greg had 6 less than Joe. So here's Joe at x plus 9. And if I go minus 6, what do I end up with? Yeah, so x plus 3 is what we have to put down for Greg. And John had 1 less than Greg. So here's John. Greg has x plus 3 and John has 1 less. So what do I put in for John? X plus 2. Yeah. The total points scored in a game by the 4 players is 62. So now we have our equation, and we can go through and simplify this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. And 9 plus 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So we move that 14 to the right and subtract. You'll come up with 48, and divide that 48 by 4 and you'll get an x value of 12. So now we can go through and label our players with what they actually earned. So we have Joe, Jeff, Greg, and John. So Joe was x plus 9. So how many points does Joe have? 21, right. Jeff was simply x. So how many points did he have? Greg was x plus 3. What did he have? And John was x plus 2. 14. Okay, so the rest of the problem here, and I'll zoom in on it so we can all read it. The 2 teams will be picked by placing the highest scorer with the 3rd highest scorer. The next team will be the 2nd scorer with the lowest scorer. What are the 2 teams and how many points do each player have? So we'll answer that before we go to the rest of it. So the teams here have to be, and we're going to rank these in terms of highest score, 1. Who's the 2nd highest?
Greg.
Who's the 3rd?
John.
John, so Jeff will be 4. So the first team is going to be the highest scorer and the 3rd highest scorer. So that means these 2 are on a team, 1 and 3. And then of course we put a circle around 4 and 2, that is the other team. So on a test I would probably give you blanks and say here's team 1 has 2 players. For team 1 you would fill in Joe and John, then team 2 Jeff and Greg. Alright, so the rest of the problem is this. Also, the coach will give 3 candy bars for each point over 14 that is scored in the game. Who earned the candy bars and how many did they earn? 3 candy bars per point over 14. So let's go back over here and look at this. Who scored over 14 points?
Joe and Greg.
So Joe and Greg get that. How many points over 14 did Joe score? 7. Yeah, he has 21 and he has 7 more than 14. Or you can do 21 minus 14 and come up with 7. Then you have to multiply that 7 by 3 to come up with how many candy bars? 21 candy bars. How far over 14 is Greg?
1.
He's 1 over it because it's 15 minus 14 and it's 1. So 1 times 3 means he has 3 candy bars. This will be the practice problem. Bring it up here with all answers that are asked for in the problem. Are you sure?